I'm noticing in my travels around and my interactions with people that there's a lot more anger in our society than there used to be, and there's a lot more defiance. I remember many years ago, you would see people run stop signs, and they were always the hot shots and the hot dogs and so forth, your usual scofflaws. But now I see soccer moms running stoplights and stop signs.
That's true.
Their idea is, I'm entitled, you know, screw these people. I'm going to do it. I can get away with it. There's nobody coming. This law is stupid. I'm just going to do it.
Or they're desperate.
Or they're desperate. That's true too. That's another part of it.
They can't hold their lives together anymore. They're overwhelmed.
That's right.
And they're starting to do desperate things.
Absolutely, they are. In fact, desperation that's a good observation, because I think I'm seeing a lot of that too. And the more desperate people get, the more likely they are just to do whatever they feel is necessary, because they've been let down. The government's let me down. My own public officials have let me down. I'm not getting anything from a lot of organizations. I'm on my own. And therefore, I'm going to do what I have to do in order to survive and do the best thing for my family. And speaking about morale in organizations, I think it fits that we should talk about that too, because even, for example, the people in the churches are I think, have been expecting too much from them and have not been getting it, and are disappointed about it. And if people feel that way about their churches, and they feel that way about a lot of other organizations, and about everything from the city council up through the national government, I think it just it hurts morale all around, because there's no touchstones. People don't have this feeling of a foundation that they can count on. So they're going to do whatever they have to do in order to survive. And I think we're beginning to see that. We're seeing it on the roads where it's really visible. We're seeing it in public places where people are obviously quicker to anger than they were a few years ago. And we're seeing a lot of cynicism in conversation.
I've made the point with other people before that you know, any rational person who's lived through the last 2 years in America has got to be able to see that the federal government has no idea what it's doing. It is just stumbling around. It's lost. It's very clear to everybody that the politically connected so-called fat cats in the financial industry have been bailed out, but almost nobody else has. And everybody's standing around waiting for the government to do something brilliant to fix the mess that it has created. And it's spent, you know, since 1914 creating this mess. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. They've all been taught, you know, that the government knows the answers. The government is wise and honest, and it will figure this out. And so in the last 2 years, more and more of them are coming to understand that that's a lot of nonsense. The government is just ordinary human beings like you and me, and they have spent many, many decades creating this horrific mess that they have no idea how to fix.
Yes.
And you know, as I'm still hearing occasionally cases of people saying, "Oh, the government's figured it out in the past, so they'll solve this problem too. Just be patient." Well, sorry about that. I don't think so this time. You know, it's finally gotten to the point. They have made such a colossal mess out of it. They're not going to figure this one out.
You know, and it just occurred to me, I think it's even broader than that. You know, as I was saying before about the way people view the churches and city councils and so forth, I think the American people are coming to the conclusion nobody's got it figured out. Nobody knows what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
That we're in uncharted territory. That we have got to rethink a lot of the ways that we do things. We have to perhaps rebuild the foundations upon which we base our lives. And that has great potential for good and also great potential for ill. Yeah. Because we've seen that happen in other countries, for example, in Germany in the 20s and 30s, and you know what we got out of that. But then we've also had the American Revolution, which created the greatest bastion of liberty and freedom in the world in the 1700s. So it can go either way. I just hope that the American people will make good choices and start to go back to some of the things that worked. We do have a model for how things work in this country, and the model is based upon the works of the Founding Fathers, who based theirs upon some Roman law and British common law. So we have a good history of things working in this country when we followed the rules. So what I think is going to happen, and I hope happens, is that people are going to go back to what they know worked and start revising it for the modern age and put something together that'll return our country to the greatness it has had until rather recently.
Yeah, there's this phenomenon that historians refer to as the man on the white horse, and you saw it in the early days of America. The founders knew they needed a man on a white horse, a very prestigious individual who had a lot of charisma, who would come along and lead the country in the direction that it needed to go, and the guy they picked for that was George Washington.
Yes.
Even in the Constitutional Convention in 1787, he was, by that time, he was getting pretty old, and he didn't really feel all that up to it, but he was willing to be the figurehead and to be the man on the white horse that they would follow in the direction of liberty, rather than in the direction of what we today call fascism. So, again, as you point out, this is this crisis situation that we believe that we're headed for is a situation where what man on the white horse is going to get out in front of this thing, and what direction is he going to go? Yes. And it's the beliefs of the population that will determine what that man on the white horse will do. If the population believes in the Bill of Rights, if they're willing to stand in the streets and say, you absolutely will not violate the Bill of Rights, no matter what. If they're willing to defend the Bill of Rights, the Constitution as a whole, but especially the Bill of Rights, then the guy on the white horse is going to have to go in that direction.
Yes. If no other message will sell, right, that's when we're going to see the country go in a direction we want it to go.
Right.
And I think there's a very reasonable chance of seeing that happen.